Hello everyone, it's me. Please enjoy this story about an extraordinary bear from Peru who comes to London and has lots of exciting adventures. This is a story about a bear called Paddington. One day Mr. Brown said, "Paddington, would you please go into the garden and paint the fence? It's looking a bit drab and needs a fresh coat of paint." Paddington put on an old sweater for protection and grabbed the paintbrush. He dipped it into the white paint and began painting the fence. He painted and he painted until he reached the top where there was a small ledge. He stood on tiptoe to reach the brush, but then he sneezed and the whole bucket of paint went flying. The paint landed on the flowers, on the grass, on the trees, and on the Brown's cat, making him look like a large, juicy mango. Paddington sighed. He had meant to be helpful, but he had made a terrible mess. Then he looked at the flowers. They were now a lovely shade of blue. The grass was a beautiful pink, and the cat looked very dashing in his new green fur. Perhaps it wasn't so bad after all. "I call it Paddington," announced, "modern bear art." Mr. Brown came to the door. "What have you done?" he asked, but he didn't sound cross. Mrs. Brown came out next, and she didn't say a word. She just shook her head and smiled. Jonathan and Judy came out after that, and they both laughed. "It looks like an explosion in a china shop," said Jonathan. "And our cat looks like a giant pistachio," added Judy. Everyone was quiet for a moment, then they all burst out laughing. Even Mr. Brown. They laughed and they laughed until the sides of their faces hurt. And Paddington laughed the loudest of all because he loved making people happy. But then he stopped. He looked at the flowers and the trees and the cat, and he felt a little sad. He hadn't meant to cover everything in paint. He had just wanted to help. "Don't worry, Paddington," said Mrs. Brown, seeing what he was thinking. "We can clean it off. But perhaps we should let the paint dry first. Would you like to help us, Paddington?" Paddington's face lit up. He loved helping the Browns, especially when they were all in high spirits. So the four of them, plus a green cat, went into the house to get some cleaning supplies. When they came back out, they all set to work. First, they washed the cat. They wrapped him in towels and gave him some salmon as a treat. Then they helped the flowers and the trees. "There," said Paddington, dabbing some bluebells with a cloth. "That one's done." The bluebells were now purple. "I think it suits you," said Judy, and Paddington beamed. "But what about the fence?" It was still covered in white paint, and it looked very bare. Paddington dipped his brush into a bucket of dark green paint and began painting the fence again. The Browns watched him for a moment in silence, then they all started to sing. "Paddington, Paddington, painting away the day, dip, 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 your brush in the paint making fences nice and quaint." Paddington sang along, and by the end of the song, the fence was completely covered in a lovely shade of green. It looked wonderful. Paddington stood back to admire his work. The Browns stood back to admire their work, and even the cat looked very impressed. Mr. Brown ruffled Paddington's fur. "Thank you for painting the fence, Paddington," he said. "It looks so good. Now let's all go out to celebrate with an ice cream." And that's exactly what they did. The end.